What tape did you provide to the Mail online, the Daily Mail?
In this, are you asking, forgive me, in this instance relating to this text?
Yes.
My recollection is that I gave a pair of audio tapes actually to them. Whether that occurred sequentially or at the same time, I don't remember, but I provided them 2 tapes.
What training have you had in domestic violence?
None.
Have you ever represented any clients who have either been accused of domestic violence or had domestic violence committed on them other than Mr. Depp?
No.
And of course, you never saw any, as you would say, element or elements of things that Ms. Heard claimed, right?
I never saw any element or elements of things she claimed. Do you mean, did I ever see evidence with my own eyes that something she was saying was false?
Yes.
Yes, to some extent I have seen evidence of things that show her statements to be false.
Before we get there, as best you can recall today, who are the eyewitnesses that you, among the 29 or so that you referred to in the text to Christian Carino, that you believe disprove Ms. Heard's claims of abuse by Johnny Depp?
Okay, good. It's also probably easier to answer by taking a particular incident rather than just thinking of names of people. So maybe this is a good illustration that is a helpful answer. On May 21st, 2016, and I always view this as one of her central claims. It was the one she put on the cover of People magazine. It's the one she led with when she went to get her temporary restraining order. The phone to the face incident on May 21st, 2016. That's her claim, and that she was further beaten by some appendage of Mr. Depp in the face, and her hair was pulled. And she showed up on the 27th in court with a lot of bruises on her face. So there are 2 police officers, one domestic violence trained female police officer, who've testified over and over and over that there was no damage to the penthouse, which Ms. Heard claimed was destroyed. That's a direct quote, destroyed. There are, that I can think of, 9 other witnesses, the majority of whom are either neutral or actually Ms. Heard's own witnesses, who have testified in various forums, various times, that there were no injuries to her face whatsoever between the 21st and the 27th, when suddenly there were bruises.
Who are those 9?
Let's see. Laura Divinier, Melanie Inglesi, Amber's own primary makeup artist. Laura Divinier was Ms. Heard's assistant and decorator, and now works for Elon Musk. Hilda Vargas, Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's at the time housekeeper. Samantha McMillan, who was Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp's stylist, and a good friend of Ms. Heard. Isaac Baruch, Ms. Heard's and Mr. Depp's friend, close friend, and Ms. Heard's neighbor in the penthouses. Okay, so continuing on, the witnesses, a list of some witnesses to the 21st, her claims of violence and damage to the apartment. Trinity Esparza, who was the head of the concierge desk at the Eastern Columbia building, and a friend of Ms. Heard's also. Cornelius Harrell, who I think also worked for the concierge desk, or in any event worked for the Eastern Columbia building, and met with Ms. Heard on the 22nd of May, which meeting was captured on CCTV also. Alejandro Romero, who I believe is head of security at the Eastern Columbia building. And I think Brandon Patterson also testified about the absence of bruises. And I should even distinguish, because we're talking about the notion of a hoax, I should distinguish these people specifically have given testimony that Ms. Heard was uninjured between the 21st of May up into perhaps the 25th or 26th of May. And then, of course, she appeared bruised again on the 27th. Some of them have testified that even after the 27th, they were with her and she appeared and that she appeared bruised. But during that period between the 21st and the 27th, I'm not sure if I've listed 9 plus the 2 police officers, but I think that's an illustration of what I was referring to when I in the question you asked me about.
Can you please pull up a document labeled ARW 660, please? Sorry, but you do believe that the pictures and videos Marilyn Manson sent you help disprove Ms. Heard's allegations, correct?
As to that incident, Thanksgiving, perhaps 2013, I think those videos and photographs, yes, demolished her claim.
Have you communicated with other social media users about this case other than public messaging platforms? Let me ask that differently. Have you communicated privately with other social media users about this case?
Other social media, I want to make sure I'm precise. Other social media users?
Yes.
That group would include almost everybody on Earth.
Have you provided information about this case to other social media personalities who then post that information?
I've provided information episodically to what I would call internet journalists, and I'll define that as journalists who are not affiliated with, you mentioned, I think, NBC a moment ago, or a mainstream media outlet.
Have you communicated with a social media user who goes by the name That Umbrella Guy?
I've had several phone calls with a person who goes by the name That Umbrella Guy. I don't actually know his real name.
Have you communicated with him other than through phone calls?
I don't remember doing so, no.
What are other, well, let me ask you this. Have you communicated in a similar fashion with someone on social media who goes by the name That Brian Fella?
Yes.
What about someone who goes by the name The Real Laura B?
Yes.
And have you communicated to those individuals listed evidence that you believe suggests that Ms. Heard's allegations are hoaxes?
I would say I communicate with the internet journalists, because we put them in a category calling them that. I've done that. Exactly the same way I would communicate with mainstream media. If they have questions about evidence or the facts, I'll inform them.
And have you, when you communicate with them, do you do so? You testified some by phone, correct?
Yes.
Do you do so by text or messenger platform?
Largely, I think by phone, but if I communicated in writing, it would be probably by Signal.